What's up gamers, DreamcastGuy here, reviewing today Resident Evil 4 on the Nintendo Switch. Now, I just want to say right up front that many of us realize that RE4 is a masterpiece. It is easily one of the best shooters ever made. It manages to have cool upgrades, really great weapons that feel so good to shoot, really creative monster design of spooky things that really go bump in the night, and also, let's just face it, it's a great entry in an already stupendous franchise that is Resident Evil. But unfortunately, I have to say that the Switch version of it is perhaps the very worst port I've seen, mostly because it is $10 more than even the most expensive of the other versions and actually provides no additional content. In some ways, I actually think that it has some aspects of it that are downgrades. Now let me just start off by actually just telling you what this is. So for those who didn't purchase this remaster already, it is basically a complete reskinning of the original Resident Evil 4. It's got upgraded 1080p visuals, it's got something that looks close to, if not directly at 60 frames a second graphics, and also it includes all the additional content from the different versions. So things like the Separate Ways side mission with Ada Wong, and of course, all the cool unlockables in Mercenary mode. It is fun. In fact, I'd say it's very, very fun. But the issue is, since you're paying a higher price, many of us were actually expecting that this would include the special exclusive content that has only existed on previous Nintendo consoles. So you may not know this, but in fact, this game has existed on tons and tons of different systems. I myself actually own it on PS4, GameCube, Wii. I mean, I own it pretty much everywhere it can be bought. But on the Wii specifically, they included motion controls, which were surprisingly very, very sharp. It allowed you to have a almost perfect one-to-one representation of your hand motions and do really interesting stuff like instead of switching to your knife whenever you wanted to use it, simply by swiping at the screen with your Wiimote, it would automatically do the attack. While fundamentally these didn't seem like just substantial changes to gameplay, they were very fundamental to making it feel different. So most of us just assumed, on at least some level, that this would of course come to the Switch. Why would it not? I mean, it costs $10 more. It seems like putting that in there is a very easy win, and of course, they didn't. This is simply the Xbox One version converted over to the Switch, and they of course changed all the button prompts to say switch buttons. There is nothing new. Now, one of the things I'm personally disappointed about the most is the fact that some of the games that are getting ported over recently have some touch interface, where you can at least tap the screen and do something, even if it is very, very minor. A good example of this is when they brought over Final Fantasy X, you can actually tap the screen to immediately heal your party members, and it's a very small but very nice little touch. It's basically just an extra option that only exists on a screen like this because they want to try and basically reward you for buying it again or buying it on this specific platform. So why did they not include that on Switch? Why can't I reorganize my cases or something? Now, moving past this, I do need you to be aware that this actually includes many of the glitches that also existed in the PS4 version and Xbox One versions of the game. This has not been patched. This is the original code that's been traveled over instead of any updated reworks, which means that the weird glitch where your aiming actually gets more and more shaky depending on how many explosions go off, and it just stays really, really erratic, that is unfortunately still in the game. There's also some weird things like you can't change the character models, so if you're actually wanting to play it so it looks like the GameCube version, unfortunately, that is completely impossible. Let's just be real clear about something. The reason I'm bringing this up isn't to try and bash the game, it's that if you're paying the highest price for a product, I expect the most value. You are charging more than any other system, so I'm expecting these additional features. Instead, you're giving us the most baseline experience for the highest cost. cost. Now, I just want to say, this game, if you were actually to buy this exact same thing on PlayStation 4, they put it on sale all the freaking time for $5. That means you are paying 6 times the cost just to enjoy this in handheld, which I do want to talk about here. This is the predominant reason that many people are going to be purchasing it, and it's one of the things that I definitely like the most. When you're playing this on handheld, the screen is bright, the screen is clear, and I gotta say that in general, everything is very, very responsive. I like just being able to play something like this that is so spooky and cool on a handheld. This goes double because I am a really big fan of survival horror in general. In fact, a lot of my very early videos on this channel were basically all about studying different horror games from Silent Hill to Resident Evil, and that's why it's really cool to be able to take an experience as big and as spectacular as this and put it in your pocket. Going past this, I definitely say that it's really nice just to have Resident Evil 4 still around. This is still easily one of the best freaking examples of early 2000s shooters. It has some really smart movement that manages to make it where you can aim very crisp, even on these little tiny Joy-Cons. It works well with a Pro controller, of course, so you can easily score some great combo headshots. And also, I like the fact that it still manages to be spooky, even all these years later. It is a fantastic game. It's mostly just the fact that it's the same exact one that's already existed forever and ever and ever. I wanted more than this. There were just certain times when I was basically just traveling around through the villages or through the castles of Resident Evil 4 and seeing all the cool architecture and all the cool fire effects, and I'm trying to just line up that next cool bullet and to try and slow somebody down, where I was going, this is awesome, but where's that extra $10 of awesomeness? Where is that extra little push that turns this from a port into a new game? This is something that I definitely say is a good deal if you have never played Resident Evil 4 ever before in your life. It's cheaper on every other console ever. You can get this if you get it on Steam. There's all sorts of really interesting mods that can completely improve the experience. But if you only own a Nintendo Switch, and maybe you've just been living in a cave and you've never gotten a chance to ever even hear of some game called Evil of the Residents, well, congratulations. Here is a good chance to play a good game if you don't mind mustering up the extra cash. I mean, honestly, despite the fact that I did have so much fun with this game, I gotta say that it is not worth the price tag. $30 for a game that came out so long ago is absolutely not worth the price. It is a complete ripoff in my opinion, because as much as this game is awesome and as much as it manages to have some cool side modes to keep you entertained, it is fundamentally just an older gem that's been brought over and they're just selling you the same code again and again. Really what this stems from more than anything else is the fact that the Nintendo Switch right now is having a complete renaissance of ports, which sounds crazy, but so many people are actually going back and recreating their games specifically on Switch. We're getting so many big, great remakes and cool ports and really great chances to see games flourish even more on the Switch. Some of my favorite stuff on here is ports like freaking Wolfenstein and Doom, and things like Minecraft actually play better than ever when you have them on the Switch. And yet here we have games that just seem so freaking lazy. If anything, I'm saying that as much as I love Capcom this year and as much as they managed to absolutely kill it, this shows that at the end of the day, they can be lazy too. And unfortunately, this is a very clear chance to show that they could have done it right and they decided very consciously to do it wrong. Okay, so we've heard a lot of bad and a little bit of good, but let's go over the ratings board and put a big number on it. I am giving Resident Evil 4 on the Nintendo Switch a 7 out of 10. Now, let me just say real quick that some of you may think that that score is slightly low for such a stupendous game in general, but it just really comes down to the cost. I mean, if you're trying to charge way more for the same product, I am going to take off points. I am going to actually have to say that it's not worth the value because you can get it in such better formats everywhere else. Get this on Steam, get this on PS4, heck, buy it on the freaking GameCube, but do not actually participate in this gouging that continues to happen. This is game developers purposely charging you more just to try and get a little bit of extra profit. Okay, thanks so much for watching, gamers. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all and keep dreamin'. It's just so crazy to me that it's 2019 and I'm actually sitting here saying bad things about Resident Evil 4. What kind of bonkers timeline is this? Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.